We got work to do.
Okay.
One last burp. Welcome to Highway to Hell, a supernatural podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Kristen.
And today we're talking about season 4, episode 11, Family Remains. And I'm laughing because the IMDb description that I'm about to read pretty much, I think, sums up how I feel about the episode.
Oh, God.
It says, the Winchesters try to stop a family from moving into a haunted house.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens, although they fail. And this family does
Right.
not listen.
Girl, why do they not listen? Your
I mean,
dog just died and his blood is smeared on the side of this truck and you're still going to tell me that there's no ghosts or whatever? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I think
At this
that
point, what
was
is there to
the most
think
upsetting
about,
thing.
right? Just leave.
No, yeah. They should have left. Well, but Sam and Dean were like, no, you can't leave. Like, you have to get
I think
inside
at
the
that
house.
point, because they had the tire slash too. But anyway, there were multiple points, where they were like, what? What's the problem?
Yeah. And this one reminded me a lot of the Black Christmas movie that I keep on talking about over and over again.
Oh, yeah. You have mentioned that before. Basically,
same premise that's happening here. And so I was so excited. I jumped up and was like, oh my God, it's Black Christmas. Which I didn't, because I was looking into it. I was like, okay, how alike are the two really? And actually Katie Cassidy comes out in the 2006 version, and I had totally not realized that. So
weird.
Our ode Ruby is in there.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So I guess they're pretty alike.
Yeah. They have more connections than one.
That's pretty funny. Well, yeah. I think overall, I didn't hate the episode. I didn't dislike it. I just had a lot of issues with it, so it's not one of my faves,
Yeah, I really liked this episode. I see it as another a retry of the Benders. And
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about too.
Yeah, and the Benders is really low on our list, and we hated it.
Yeah.
And I feel like this one accomplishes more. I felt like they did a better job.
Agreed.
You know?
Yeah, completely agree.
It's also creepy.
Totally creepy. There were some good shots and some good ways that they did things that were totally creepy.
Yeah.
Man. So the director was Phil Segricia, written by Jeremy Carver, and Eric Kripke has his credit there. Mm-hmm. And I feel kind of bad about this, but lately I've been kind of talking about the actors, especially when I feel like they've, they did a particularly good job. That was not many of them here.
Yeah.
There were a few, right? I actually really liked the lady who played Mrs. Curry, the one who they went to talk to behind her screen door.
Oh, yeah. She looked familiar, too. She looked creepy.
Yeah, she's been in a bunch of stuff, apparently. Karen Konoval. And I just thought she did a really good job for that short part that she was in. She was very convincing. And then also I thought the kids did a pretty good job, Kate and Danny.
Yeah, they did. And I recognize Danny from 13 Reasons Why. He comes out.
Dang.
And that he's the main kid. Although he's so much more grown up now.
Dylan Minnette.
Whoa, yeah.
He's a man. That's so weird.
Yeah, he is. He's adorable now. I mean, in a different way than he is as a kid.
Yeah. And then Alexa Nicholas, it's with a K,
Mm.
Nicholas, was Kate.
I really resonated with her. I was kind of
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you told me that there would be signal out here? What the hell, man?
What the fuck is this, Dad?
I can't reach my Instagram. What the-
Yeah. And I liked her, like some of the things that she said, like she had kind of a Dean humor.
Yeah, she did. And Dean kind of like made faces at her like, what the fuck?
Like, are you me?
Yeah. About the hooker sheets
Yeah.
specifically in the motel room. Yeah, they totally bonded in that moment, at
Pretty funny.
least.
So yeah, I did like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any music this episode. I don't think that we had any production info except what you have from a guide that we forgot we bought.
I know. I totally forgot. So I bought the Supernatural official companion to season 4. It's by Nicholas Knight. He does this every single season. I have yet to buy it. I know somebody like in season 1 like suggested, oh, you should check out this companion because it's really helpful and all. And I never did. And now I do have it in my hands. It's really cool because it goes by episode and it gives you like the written by, directed by, and then also like some fun trivia facts about recording the episode and then actual like interviews with the cast and their experience, and the cast and crew and their experience recording the episode.
That's very cool.
So I do have a few things from the past 2 episodes that I wanted to share. And then one minor thing from this episode, actually. So in I Know What You Did Last Summer, they had some really great information. One of these I just found kind of interesting. It just says that Julie McNiven might look like a natural redhead, but she's actually a blonde.
Oh.
Which I can't picture her as a blonde. Like, I feel like she's too pale. I mean, it's a great complexion. It's just
Yeah,
the
she's
blonde
beautiful.
might just wash her out,
Maybe that's why she's red.
And she said, I swore to myself that I would never move to LA a blonde because I knew there were way too many blondes here already.
Huh.
I
That's
was
really
in New
interesting.
York. Yeah. And she says, I was in New York for 4 or 5 years. And after the first year there, I met with a casting director and she said, you know what? I think you should pull Julia Roberts and go red. So I did. And 4 times a day, people would say, you look exactly like Julia Roberts because we both had red hair. And she kind of like does look a little bit like Julia Roberts. I get that vibe.
Yeah, she definitely has that feel.
Yeah. So at the recording of this episode, she had been a redhead for 5 years now. And I dig the look. I just wanted to give her props for that. She looks great as a redhead.
She does.
So regarding Ruby, and then also regarding that Ruby Sam love scene from I Know What You Did Last Summer, it says here that in this episode, Ruby was literally meat suit jumping, points out costume designer Diane Whitus. She also notes that there were no similarities in costume styles for the various meat suits. No, there wasn't any foreshadowing that they were Ruby, she says. There was no likeness of character other than with Genevieve Cortez. For her, we used the leather jacket and gave her a tough, no-nonsense look, and that was definitely drawn from our past Ruby.
For sure. I could see that.
Yeah.
She has to have that leather jacket and the kind of like sassy look.
Crossing her arms
Right,
all the time.
Right. Like standing like on one hip,
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But that's interesting because I felt like the first Ruby meat suit from not the first one. The first one after Sam found her again, after she came back from hell. The blonde secretary.
Mm-hmm.
She was wearing a leather jacket, and I think we mentioned like, oh, she's giving off Ruby vibes with that leather jacket.
I thought so too. It's funny that you said that because I was like, I thought they were kind of similarly dressed.
Yeah, they were, but the costume designer is saying, nope, not quite. So I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna bite my tongue on that one.
Yeah, maybe it's just subconscious on her part. And then she says, or I'm sorry, it goes on to say, of course, only the real Ruby, so to speak, was able to seduce Sam. Eric Kripke and Charles Beeson were very deliberate and specific about what to show in the love scene, reveals editor Nicole Bayer. They wanted it to be raw and animalistic to contrast the tenderness and elegance of the Dean and Anna love scene that was to come.
I
And
think we got that.
I totally think we got raw and animalistic.
Yeah, we definitely did. And like noticed the difference between the two scenes too. Like it was very different.
It really was. Yeah. And despite the rawness, Eric was very serious that we still not make this into some sort of softcore porn, says composer Christopher Lennertz. It's still in our world. There are still evil doings going on. So it's much more a sexual thriller kind of score than a romantic love scene kind of score.
Mm-hmm.
There's some intrigue going on there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it was sort of like...
Which was better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was building up the tension, and then it was like, whoa, 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 what's happening here?
Yeah, for sure.
It definitely felt like the music reflected that. The other thing about Heaven and Hell, and this is about the love scene as well. You can see what I'm really interested in.
I think it's kind of funny that they keep calling it a love scene. Like, I guess it is between Sam and Ruby, but it's, to us, it was just classifiable straight up as a sex scene.
Yeah.
Like, I see almost other scenes more as love scenes when it's like them just really connecting or something like that. Like, that's not physical.
Yeah, like I could see season 1 Dean and the girl from Route 66 as a love scene.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Uh-huh.
But
or the scene between Sam and the girl in Heart, whose name I can never remember.
Yes, Madeline. Possibly Madison. I don't know.
Oh, maybe Madison. Maybe that
maybe.
one.
So they say another effective piece was the angel human love scene. Both Jensen and Miller were very respectful, and I made sure that I was comfortable the whole time we shot that scene, McNiven says, who plays Anna. But it was funny because the director was shouting out directions like, move your hand up his chest. Okay, good. Stop. Now pull her pants off. Not too fast. Good. Now.
That's awkward.
I felt like I was filming a softcore porno. Eric said people have been waiting 4 years for someone to have sex in the backseat of the Impala, so it might as well be Dean and an angel, Tobin shares. He wasn't at all concerned that viewers would find it cheesy that the scene ended with a foggy window bit that brings to mind the love scene from Titanic. Kripke, however, it totally does.
We pointed that out.
But it's not, I don't find it cheesy at all. No.
Used to good effect.
But this is really interesting because one of the things I love about Supernatural is the little references to other works, McNiven says. One thing that I didn't know that people told me about afterward was that when I ran my hand down the window, it made angel wings.
Ooh.
I didn't notice that, though.
I didn't either, but that doesn't mean anything.
I have to go back and look at that, but I just found that really interesting.
That's cute.
Right?
Now I'm like looking up a picture. Yeah, I do like that.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, tell me if you find anything.
Okay.
We might have to go all the way back.
Yeah, and just check the episode.
Yeah.
Nice picture of Dean's back.
I mean, it was a pretty great back in that moment.
But not at any other time.
I mean, I feel like we don't. The last time we saw his back was like in Skin when he was ripping it off.
Ah, good point.
Right?
Yep.
We don't get to see a lot of that. But Sam's just always shirtless. He's just showing off.
Yeah, well, he got buff over the summer, and now he's like, look what I got.
Look what I can do.
Yeah. Flex.
Yeah. So the one tidbit about Family Remains that I have is that Sarah Gamble, who wrote the episode, Gramble, So this episode was inspired by that guy Joseph Fritzl in Austria, who turned out to have a bunch of kids locked in his basement for years and years.
Oh, that explains a line in the episode.
Do you remember? Yes, the Austrian
Yeah,
line.
I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you talking about?
I wouldn't have gotten that. But do you remember Joseph Fritzl?
No.
He just came up on the news media again because I think because he said something like he wants to die in prison or something. I don't know.
Okay, good.
And, and I think he came up on like My Favorite Murder.
Oh, no, I don't think I've heard that one.
Yeah, this it's fucked up. It's pretty brutal. Um he basically just like locked up his daughter, one of his daughters, and sexually abused her, and she ended up giving birth to 7 children while
Oh,
she was locked
God.
up for 24 years. But he kept them just locked in the basement for 24 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually the movie Room is supposed to be inspired by it as well. People are terrible.
Yeah,
Humans are
humans.
terrible.
Humans, man.
Yeah. I totally, and that's why I did like the monster of the week, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I do like it, and why I did like it better than Benders. They did a better job with it.
Yeah, I think part of the reason I hated Benders so much was because that wasn't really explained. It was just kind of like, look, people are terrible. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like it didn't seem like there was any greater meaning to that. But here we have like this whole family coming out of it and learning about like their past and the troubles that they've had. So it's just kind of like all of these like human elements coming together,
Yes.
So there's still juxtaposition. It's not just like everything is shit.
Yeah, like I really enjoyed the all of the little tidbits about the family, about how I guess the parents have been in marriage counseling, and this is
Yeah.
like their one solution to save their family, um and it brought them closer together, although Ted died and
Oh,
they're
he was kind of
super
a dick.
traumatized. Oh, well, I don't understand who he is,
I
first
don't
off.
either.
Is he one of the sons? Is he like a brother? Who is he?
Well, he's an uncle. He's Uncle Ted.
He's Uncle Ted.
Yeah, he's Susan's
Oh,
brother,
okay. Okay.
Uncle
I was
Ted.
like, why are you here?
Well, I don't know why Uncle Ted is such a dick.
Yeah, he just seemed like there was lots of attitude there.
Yeah, like he's 17 years old.
Is he that much? I don't know. I don't know. He could have been like
He was
28.
acting like he was 17.
Yes, true. True.
Ridiculous. So, yeah, good points. I definitely liked it better with the whole humans are terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No, that was everything. So I'll
Okay.
remember that I own that book.
Yeah, and we'll
From
look
now
at it
on.
with each episode. That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so the episode starts with our then and now segments. During the then segment, we get clips of Castiel and his arrival in that barn with Bobby and Dean and the cool shadowy wings. Clips of Lilith and that clip of Dean in hell that was that extremely expensive scene of him on the hooks.
Mm-hmm.
We get Alistair telling Dean, like, he had so much fun in hell or whatever. And then Dean telling Sam the story of his time in hell at the end of that last episode. So now we see a house in the country, and inside the house is an older guy eating dinner by himself in front of the TV and drinking a beer. The lights flicker and go off, and he's like, oh crap. Gets up to check it out, and he goes over to a door in the house, but it's locked, and he can't figure out why it's locked. And then a door behind him slowly creaks open. And then it's dark in the doorway. And then out of the darkness, this woman's face appears looking ghostly and dirty. And she comes out of the doorway and gets closer to him. And he's like, you? It's impossible. And then she gets closer to him. And then we just see blood splatter on the wall behind him.
Oh my God.
So that was pretty cool right off the bat. Just the creepy factor, like her just like showing up all Ring style.
She was real creepy. Also, I'm not okay with any closets being like
No,
featured
no.
as a dark place. Like I have to close my closet to sleep. It's not okay that happened.
I completely agree.
um and this was interesting. Like I thought about this scene when we found out what happened because he's the dad, right? He's a bad man.
Yeah, he's the bad man.
But it was just surprising that like his reaction. You like he's like you. So like why?
But I think the deal was, so my take on that is that, like, even though she's technically his granddaughter,
Mhm.
she looked exactly like his daughter.
Okay. So he thought like what the fuck? This is my daughter.
Yeah, and she's all kind of fucked up and ghostly looking anyway, so he was like
Yeah.
thinking it was her.
Okay. I could see that. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Gross.
super gross. The whole thing around it.
The whole
Just
thing.
so gross.
Yeah.
Also, it was really weird because I don't know if you watch with the subtitles on.
Yeah.
Did yours have Tarzan dialogue in the beginning?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
It was like
Was that like what he was watching?
well, but it didn't sound like that's what he was watching. Like it kept on going. It was like, "My name is Tarzan. I'm Jane Porter." Like that's what the subtitles were. And it was like, "No, I'm not hearing this. I'm not hearing this at all."
That's weird.
So I don't know if they switched that out or something.
The episode is haunted.
With Tarzan. Yes. Oh my God.
That's bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get the title, or Swooshy Wings title, and then we cut to Sam and Dean, and they're in the parked Impala somewhere in the woods. Sam's sleeping in the back seat, and he wakes up, and Dean is in the front seat looking at newspapers, scoping them out for a new job. And Sam's exhausted, and he's like, "We just finished a job 2 hours ago." And then they argue because Sam's like, "We need to take a break and get some sleep." And he says that Dean's running. And Dean's like, "Well, from what?" And Sam says, "From what you told me." Clearly,
Yeah,
obviously.
obviously.
And then in typical Dean fashion, he ignores this completely, like doesn't even respond, and then just points out the next potential job that he found.
Mm-hmm.
In Stratton, Nebraska, a man named Bill Gibson got hacked to death in a locked house with no signs of forced entry. And Sam's like, "Yeah, it sounds like a ghost. All right, fine." So then we see the Impala driving up to the house in the country that we saw in the beginning. And there's a for sale sign in the front, but another sign that says sold, and that part has fallen down into the bushes. They pull up to the house and walk up to the front door, and Dean immediately picks the lock. Like, they don't even knock or anything.
Yeah.
Just picks it, and they go in. And it's been completely cleared out. There's no furniture or signs of life. And then we see from someone's perspective from inside a closet that they're looking out at Sam and Dean. Fucking closets.
Not okay.
Then we see the guys looking in the kitchen, and they see that an old dumbwaiter has been covered up with sheetrock. There's like an obvious like square section of wall that's just been covered over.
Mm-hmm.
And then they keep looking, and Sam's EMF reader is going haywire, and Dean looks out the window and points out the nearby power lines. Have we seen before that power lines interrupt their EMF?
I don't think that we have. I mean, I guess it makes sense though, right?
Sure.
Because EMFs are just yeah, they're just like feeling out electrical currents.
Electromagnetic frequencies, right?
That.
Maybe.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, have they not been in places where power lines are around though?
I don't know.
You
It
know?
hasn't been an issue before. Or maybe like because there was spirit activity around, like that was like it trumped the power lines or something. I don't know.
Maybe,
I have no
yeah.
idea how this works. I'm pulling that out of my ass.
But speaking of that, like those power lines are really close. And
And
this
there were a lot of
farmhouse,
them.
yeah, and this farmhouse is in the middle of nowhere. And usually, like, you're going,
And they don't have Wi-Fi?
but they have all of the power lines,
What the
all
fuck?
like all of the quote unquote cancer just right there. It's not okay.
All the cancer.
Which is, like they say, don't live next to power lines or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I remember like when we were house hunting, we saw a house that was like right next to power lines, and we were like, no, nope, not gonna live here.
That's hilarious. I don't blame you though.
Otherwise, though, it's a beautiful house. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
well, that was kind of interesting. I guess they just assumed that was interfering.
yeah.
Um, but then they open up a closet in the room that they're checking out, and there's a fucking creepy doll head without any hair sitting on the floor of the closet staring out at them. And Dean's like, that's super disturbing.
It was super
What the
disturbing.
fuck?
And it didn't come back at all, right? I
No.
mean,
No, we didn't see that her favorite toy was this doll head or anything like that.
no. It was just creepy, like Toy Story doll head at Sid's house.
Yeah, fucking Sid.
He's been there.
What a little asshole. So then all of a sudden they hear a car pull up outside and they're like, oh shit. They look outside and it's a Suburban and a moving van. And Dean's like, I thought you said this place was for sale. And Sam's like, yeah, apparently it was sold. Oops. So then this wholesome looking family gets out of the Suburban, and the teenage girl, Kate, jokes with her Uncle Ted about her parents like moving her out here to ruin her life because there's no cell signal.
Mhm.
And I don't know what Uncle Ted's deal is. He's just, I don't know. So he's giving the dad a hard time, and then there's like supposed to be some tension between them.
Yeah, I wasn't
I
sure
don't know.
about
So,
all of that.
me either. So the parents of this family, they seem like they're not so sure that they've made the right choice in buying this house. And the wife is like super skeptical. She's just like, I don't know if we did the right thing.
Yeah.
So then Sam and Dean come out of the house, and the family's like, who the fuck are you?
Why are you in our house?
And this is so weird. I'll give you my 2 cents in a second, but they introduce themselves as County Code Enforcement Officers Babar and Stanwyck. Apparently, this is supposed to be a reference to Barbara Stanwyck. That's weird, right?
I don't.
Babar instead of Barbara. I don't. So Barbara Stanwyck, the American actress. Let's
Okay.
see. In the movie
Is
Fletch,
she
wherein Chevy Chase pretends to be a Mr. Babar for a health exam, and the antagonist is Mr. Stanwyck. So I guess this reference was also like previously in Fletch, but it was a Barbara Stanwyck reference.
why? Why would this
That's
be?
weird, right?
I don't
Someone had
understand.
just watched Fletch and thought they were being funny.
I don't know. They should have gone for something a little bit more like connect the dots. See, like this house looks exactly like the Amityville horror,
Uh-huh.
Like,
Could have done something
um,
there.
yeah, they could have been like, this is Agent Kiddo and Agent, what's his name?
I don't
What's his
know.
name?
I haven't seen it.
What?
Yeah, I've never seen
What?
Amityville Horror.
Oh man, you have to see the 1977 or 1979 version of it.
Okay.
It's pretty great. But what's his name's dad is in it. God damn it. It's gonna bother me if I don't find it.
Okay. You can find it and let me know. But
James
yeah.
Brolin.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brolin. Something like that.
Yeah. Agent Brolin and Agent Kidder,
Yeah.
or something.
Duh. Or just any other reference. Like they normally have, I don't know, like his classic rock music references or something like that. Just something typical that makes
Yeah.
more sense than Barbara Stanwyck referenced in Fletch. That seems like weird. Anyway.
That's a deep cut for old people.
It's like a double deep cut. So, but then my thing was like, why didn't they just say, sorry, we thought the house was still for sale and we didn't see the sign? Because it fell.
It did. Yeah, no, that's true. They should have just said that. But I think the idea was that they
They didn't want
wanted
them to live
them
there.
right. So I actually thought it was kind of smart to be like asbestos, foundation issues, this and that. You cannot stay here.
It's a
Um,
funny conversation though, because then they come out and they're like, yes, Sam's like, there's a gas leak in the walls and asbestos. And then the wife is like, asbestos, meaning what? What the fuck do you mean, meaning what?
right. Meaning like you can
Do
die
you know what
here.
that word is?
Right. That's a
So
very bad thing.
stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they say the house is a health hazard and they can't stay there tonight. They'll have to go to the motel down the road. And Dean tells the dad that if they don't go, they'll get a fine and go to jail.
Hey, I mean, they
That's
drove
very strict.
but they drove like 200, 300 miles wherever they came from. They're maybe like, well, I don't know how this county works. I mean, all sorts
I
of
don't want to
states
go
have
to
different
jail
laws.
for staying in
Yeah.
this house that I bought.
Yeah, because they're in Nebraska, right? So
Yeah.
I'm assuming they came from a very metropolitan city, and so they don't know
Yeah,
what
that's true.
these.
It worked on them. They were like,
Yeah,
okay.
well, for a second.
Yeah, for a night. So the family agrees and they take off for the motel. And this is the part where the daughter Kate is like, another motel? I hope this one doesn't have hooker sheets like the last one. And Dean's like, what?
Yeah, Dean just looks at her like, what the?
So then we cut to a scene where the boys are dressed in suits and they're talking to a woman through her screen door named Mrs. Curry. She was Mr. Gibson's cleaning lady, and she tells them that he wasn't easy to get along with. His wife died in childbirth, and his daughter hung herself 20 years later. And then she says, I think I have some pictures, and she goes and grabs pictures that she has of the wife and the daughter. And they're like, well, did you ever see anything weird? And she doesn't like freak out at this question. She's just like, actually, there was one thing. She says that there were rustling sounds in the walls when she was cleaning. And Dean's like, says something about huge rats. And she's like, well, I wouldn't know. I never saw any.
I don't like that at all.
No.
Rustling in the walls. No, that's not normal.
No. No. That is not okay.
No.
Did I tell you about when I think I did about when I thought there was a dude in our walls in this house? That's like one of my biggest fears is like looking up and in the air vent seeing like a face staring back at me or some shit.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you're welcome
Sarah,
for that image.
Looking at an air vent right now. Not okay.
Well, there's one behind me. I can't even see it. So if I die, it's because I got snuck up on.
I'll warn you before.
But I seriously, like, I thought I heard something in the wall behind me, behind the couch. And then we have a dog cover, like fur cover on the couch. And it's got an elastic band that wraps around the back of the couch to hold it on. And I heard this loud bang in the wall behind me. And I was like fucking freaked out and was like, what was that? I made John go up into the attic and like check it out. And I was like scared he was going to be attacked by somebody up in the attic. And but then like later we did some investigating and the elastic band on the back of that thing had busted and it snapped and hit the wall and made it sound like it was like inside the wall.
Inside of the wall.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's still so freaky.
Yeah, because I was looking at it and John's like, there's nobody in there. And I was like, really? Because the part that I'm talking about is like all these four walls coming together and there's a lot of space between them. Like there could be a dude in there.
Right. Yeah. It could totally happen.
I'm so scared. But it was fine. We're fine.
Oh God. Yeah, that would have freaked me out also. And I would have totally, whenever I do hear sounds in the house, I'm like, I tell my husband, like, go look. And he's like, no, you go look. And I'm like, no.
Be my protector.
You're going to die first. That's for sure happening.
No, he's going to be a badass and he's going to take him down.
Right.
This is the better scenario.
I'm back up, you know.
Yeah, but then I'll have grabbed my taser and, you know, figured it out. Let me see. Then they ask Mrs. Curry about where the wife and the daughter are buried, and she says, well, they were both cremated. So then that's out. It can't be the ghost of either of them, right? Because they can't burn their bodies.
Yeah. And I thought at first, like, because I had forgotten what's happening in this episode, like, oh, did they just lie about cremating them or something like that?
Yeah.
Because that could totally happen, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Like, just say that they're cremated, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So now Sam and Dean have no idea whose ghost it could be that's haunting the house. And they leave to go back to the house because they're like, well, we need to keep searching and do, like, you know, a full search of the house to figure out what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Back at the house, we see the family moving in. The daughter Kate looks up after getting some stuff out of the car, and she sees a girl standing in the window of an upstairs room.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
I would have already been like,
there's
nope,
a fucking person in there.
There's somebody in there. We need to go now.
There's no fucking way I'm going in that house.
Yeah.
Then her mom startles her, and when she looks back, the girl is gone. And they keep kind of, the family's like making funny comments. Like her mom says something like, it'll be great. You'll see, like, this will be, you know, a new start. And her daughter's like, yeah, mom, I'm sure everything will change. It's like, what are y'all talking about?
Ooh, I feel like there was an affair going on.
Well, I thought so too, except that later we learn about their son.
Oh, okay.
So that's what they're talking about. Like, it's just been like a hell of a year. But I was like, oh, is this couple like arguing all the time? Is it like an ugly family life or like home life?
Which, you know, on the outside, they seem so normal. They seem like happy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot underneath the surface.
Yeah. So then we cut to a scene and it's at night, and the youngest kid is their son. He's in his room and just playing with some like gaming thing. And suddenly his closet door slowly creaks open and a baseball rolls out and hits him in the foot. And then he picks it up and he starts talking to whoever's in the closet. And we like are looking from their perspective out at him because it's like completely dark. We can't see them at all.
Right.
And he's like, it's okay. I'm Danny. And he takes the baseball and rolls it back into the closet. And then it's thrown back out to him from the dark closet and he catches it. No,
and he's
none of this is okay.
Totally okay with it. He's
what is
totally
wrong with this
okay.
child?
Okay, how old is he? How old does he look?
I would venture 11, 10, 11, or 12 maybe. Yeah.
Pretty old. And this is kind of playing on the trope of like, you know, in horror movies, a younger kid connecting with the ghost or whatever it is. And speaking of Amityville horror, like this happens and this is like the scariest thing. But the little girl in Amityville horror is 5 years old, is really, really young.
Like too little to know better.
Exactly. And the closet door opens and she's like talking with the ghost or the devil, whatever it ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
But like this kid is like, 10, 11 years old. Like he should know that this is not okay. Like if there is a person in your closet and she's scary looking. We've seen her already.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't look fun.
No, she looks a mess.
Yeah, she does.
This is a fucking mess.
So that didn't quite connect for me. Yeah. And I know, this next part when there's writing on the wall, like they blame it on him. So maybe there have been issues with him or something, but
yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't either. All I know is that if I were 11 years old and my closet door opened and a baseball rolled out, I would be fucking screaming for my mom and running down the hallway.
I just think it's an education on the parents' part, you know? But also, like, even at 6 years old.
Someone was never taught there shouldn't be somebody in your closet.
Right. Because even at, like, 6 years old, because I had already seen Chucky and stuff, I would close my closet door because I was already scared of that.
Yeah.
So that's been with me for a very long time. And it's, I was educated about monsters.
I'm so glad we got that education. We have a
Right.
healthy fear, you know.
Yeah. Traumatizing, but
Yeah.
but feeling safe after that.
Right. It's all in the name of self-preservation.
Right.
So downstairs, mom and dad are in the kitchen, and she's talking about what vegetables they can grow. She's talking about zucchini, but her husband interrupts her. We still don't really get their names by this time. She calls him Bry at some point soon, but they haven't said their name. Just FYI. So he interrupts her, and he's like, "Do you smell that?" Like opens a cabinet, and he's like, "Ugh, smells like a raccoon died." Blech.
Gross.
Blech.
Gross.
And she's like, "Okay, thanks for listening." And he's like, "No, I'm listening. Vegetable garden." And then she just looks up and she's like, "What are we doing?" And I have kind of a serious conversation. And he's like, "Things will be better here. They have to be." And she says, "I can't put the kids through another year like the last." So that's when I was like, we still didn't know about their son. And I was like, so are they fighting? Like, are they putting the
Yeah.
kids through something,
Yeah, that's the vibe that I got. That's what I thought had happened.
Mm-hmm. So outside, the Impala pulls up, and Sam and Dean see that the family's moved in, and they're like, crap. And then we go inside the house, and Uncle Ted's unpacking, and he turns around and notices something. And then he calls the mom and the dad from the kitchen to come see it. They walk in and see the word go in like red scribbly writing, and it's huge on this wall. It takes up like the whole fucking wall.
Yeah.
And so then the dad looks over at it and he checks it out and he's like, "This is done in crayon." So he assumes it's his son, and calls him downstairs. And the son comes down and he looks at it and he's like, "I didn't do that. It must be the girl who lives in the walls."
Again, why is this okay?
Ah!
Oh, it might be my next door neighbor in the wall.
Right.
What?
Right. Oh, these people, for some reason they seem to think the country is like safe.
Better, safe. Yeah.
It's not.
No.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's not.
No.
You have to like take precautions. You better have fucking cameras up around your property and shit.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, he says that the girl on the walls hates adults and likes kids, so she said that he could stay. She likes him. But everybody else has to leave. And then the dad gets like mad at him and he's like, "Okay, go upstairs." He thinks he's making shit up. And he sends him to his room as punishment. And then on the way upstairs, Danny goes, "If Andy were here, he'd believe me." We're like, what? But it's just so stupid. Like, if my kid came to me and he was like, "It's the girl on the walls," I'd be like, "Okay, honey, you just stay right here."
All right. Let me get a knife.
Yeah,
let's get the
fuck
out of here.
Yeah.
Right.
Jesus.
Yeah. I would definitely take that seriously.
Yeah, listen to your kid. At a brand new house, especially, it's big. Y'all are still moving in. I don't know. It just seemed really stupid. Time number 1 that they do something really dumb. Let's just keep track here.
And I assume that they bought this place unseen.
Yeah, maybe sight unseen,
which is a pretty big thing to do. I mean,
yeah, no
because
wonder
you go into a
about
house and you get some vibes,
Yes, you do. You need to see it in person, because I have been, when I was looking for rent houses and actually like shopping around, the vibe per house was so different.
Yeah.
And some of them were really like, I just did not feel good about it all. And others, it was like you walk in and you actually do kind of like feel peaceful or, welcome or something.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And not just like even the ghost aspect, because we were looking for the house, I would be like, okay, has anybody died here? Like, that was my first question.
If so, but in what room?
Yeah, in which room? Oh, okay, I definitely feel a presence here. They definitely died in this room. Let's go. But also just the feng shui of it all, like it is will this really work for my family and all of that stuff. So
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe they did, and that's why they were so iffy about it. Like it was such a bold move for them to
Yeah.
move in. I don't know.
Oh, this family,
Making bad decisions.
very bad decisions.
So then we cut to upstairs, and Kate is laying down in her room, and she hears the dog come in, and she starts talking to Buster the dog. And she sticks her hand over the side of the bed, and it's dark. And she's like, I know, I hate it here too. And then we hear like licking on her hand. And she's like, ew, what is wrong with you? And like pulls her hand back. And then suddenly her other door creaks open, and the dog Buster comes walking into the room.
This is so gross. Oh my God.
She just looks around, and her closet door slams shut, and she starts screaming. Like, what the
No.
fuck?
Yeah, not okay.
No. So then the next scene, she's downstairs with her parents and the whole family, and she's fucking freaking out. Like basically screaming, and her dad's like, what happened? And this is like more of the Dean humor that she has.
Yeah.
She says, I just got molested by Casper the pervy ghost. That's what happened.
I really love that scene.
Casper the pervy
Or that
ghost.
line, rather.
Yeah.
Which actually, I just recently showed Casper to Jose for the very
Oh,
first
you've never
time.
seen it?
No, I don't think he had seen it before, and it was very enjoyable to watch again
It's so good.
as an adult. It's so good.
Yeah.
I love it.
It aged well.
It really did. It really did. It's ridiculous, but it's fun.
I feel like I remember when it came out and I was a little kid and they had like Casper toys and bullshit at Pizza Hut.
Yeah, like I had this on VHS and I would watch it like over and over again. It was one of my favorites. But it's so funny because some of the stuff that they like, there's a, the bad lady, like
Yeah.
she's called a bitch over and over again.
Yeah, some of it's a little adult.
It is. It totally is. And also Casper is kind of a pervy ghost.
He is a little bit pervy because he's got a thing for Christina Ricci.
He's got a thing for Christina Ricci and he like manipulates them into moving there. And then he's like all over her.
Yeah.
Like watching her at all times. And he says, can I keep you?
Yes, he does. Yeah. And she's like, okay.
Yeah. It's really weird. Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
Yeah,
tangent.
No, good tangent. I love Casper. So then Danny, the brother, he's like, it's the girl in the walls. And she turns around like, what? So Kate knows what's up.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Excuse me?
Yeah.
Then there's a knock on the door and it's Sam and Dean. And they just walk right in and they're like, we heard screaming. What's going on? And the dad's like, you guys, did you touch my daughter? Stupid dad has his head so far up his ass. So Dean's like, no. They left the front door open and Buster the dog goes out onto the front porch and is looking around.
No, Buster.
I know. Go back inside, Betty.
Yeah.
Sam and Dean are straight up with the dad and they're like, you have a ghost in the house. And while everybody's freaking out, the lights go out. And then they hear the dog barking outside and they run outside to go get Buster. And there are terrible, horrible, like squealing puppy sounds.
I could have done without it. Yeah. I could have done with just the blood and just Buster's gone and we know that, but not the squealing.
I know.
Thank you.
It was a lot.
It was.
And so then they run around the back of the house and see a thick trail of blood on the ground leading to the moving truck, and the words "too late" are written in blood on the truck. Buster.
I know.
So
may he rest in peace.
If these people have been locked in like the basement for their whole life, how do they know English?
Great question.
How do they know how to write and use the correct form of two?
You're so right. They should have definitely have spelled that incorrectly. Because they wouldn't know, right?
No. I don't know how they know
And
how to write at all.
so I know when because I went into a deep dive on Joseph Fritzl and I started reading about everything that happened to
Mm-hmm.
poor Elizabeth. And I know Elizabeth taught the kids to read and
So maybe
write
we
and
can assume
everything,
that
but
Rebecca did this.
but she died, right? She died like right away, or was she alive for a little bit
I don't
enough
know. Because
to
it
teach
says
them?
that okay, so her mom died in childbirth and then she hung herself 20 years later. So I guess when she was 20, she hung herself. But I don't know how old she was when she gave birth to these kids.
Well, they look, I mean, yeah, they look a little bit older. So she must have been with them for a bit to maybe
Yeah,
teach
I
them.
think you're right. Mm-hmm. We'll
But
assume
you
that.
although we saw we saw the kitchen, right? In the basement or the walls, but we didn't see any sort of books lying around or anything like that.
No.
And
Yeah.
but also like grown-ups mix up two and two. So, you know, I guess she taught them really well that they're not mixing it up.
They're also really good with there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And you are. Um,
I just throwing that out there. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
it was a thought
Yeah.
that crossed my mind too.
They're so smart. So Dean's like trying to rally everybody and get them together and tell them to leave for the motel. But then he looks around and all their tires have been slashed. Sam goes over and checks the trunk of the Impala and all their weapons are gone. What the fuck? What the fuck? I guess they didn't
um,
bother locking the
did they
car.
not lock the Impala?
No.
Like, what? How wasn't smart at all.
No.
And but I feel like the trunk should have some sort of special latch, to open it. So
Yeah, so
how
like
the
only they can open it or something?
right. I mean, that would make
Like a
sense.
little
And so
Newt
how did
Scamander
this
briefcase latch?
exactly.
Safe for muggles or not
So
safe?
I don't know. They need to figure out a better security system there.
Yeah, for sure. And this is kind of funny because Dean's like yelling into the night, like at this. He thinks it's a ghost, and he's like, "What kind of ghost messes with a man's wheels?" It's like, "What the fuck? Don't
Yeah,
touch my car."
right.
So then Kate looks over to the woods and sees the girl standing in the clearing, and she screams, and everybody looks around, and she's gone. They go back inside and they hunker down. Dean builds a fire and they draw a thick salt line around everybody and they just tell them to wait. Sam and Dean are trying to convince the adults that they know what they're doing and just to trust them. But the dad in particular is not buying the ghost story. He's still pushing back on this. Dude, your dog just died.
I know. I know. Like, I understand why he's like looking at this salt line and being because I would
Skeptical.
probably be like, yeah, I would
Sure.
probably look, what the fuck are you talking about? You're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What is this salt gonna do? But the fact of the matter is that yeah, the dog died. There is definitely somebody there, so he should believe them to a certain extent. Like,
Right, because also these guys did just show up out of nowhere and they're helping you fight whatever this is. Like maybe that should tell you that they have more knowledge of what's happening than you do.
yeah, yeah. And he should be like I do understand his want to just get the fuck out of there. Like
Sure, I do too.
even if they're like walking down the road. I don't know how far the nearest motel is or whatever, but
Yeah.
even if they walk, like maybe that would be
Mm-hmm.
a safer option than staying there. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he is kind of like all over the place.
No, my fight or flight instinct would have definitely kicked in by now, and I would want to fly.
Yeah.
um. So Kate looks at the pictures that Sam has of the daughter and the wife, and she identifies the ghost as the daughter of Mr. Gibson, who hung herself. Uncle Ted isn't buying it, though, and he's being a dick again, and he wants to leave. So he argues with Dean about it and starts to walk away. And when Dean's like telling him to stay, and then Uncle Ted goes, "Stop me." So Dean like follows him, grabs him, like slams him up against the wall, and threatens him in his ear and says, "I have a gun. And if you don't get back in that circle, you're going to get yourself a third hole."
Wow. Intense, Dean.
So now they're hostages.
Yeah. The situation has turned now.
Yeah. Like this was a little weird for me just because I went from like, you know, from the dad's perspective, like, dude, you're being dumb. Just trust these guys, to like, oh shit, great. Now this guy has a gun. He's threatening one of my family members and I'm here with my children. And I don't know what the fuck is happening. Like this is,
Right.
this has changed for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It would definitely change my mind about these guys.
Yeah.
Dean needs to be careful with that.
I know. He did
the same thing in Wishful Thinking, you know, like he just brought out the gun and was like, you're gonna take the coin out.
Yeah, he's like, just do it. He's like threatening people with firearms.
Yeah, he's not, after his deal in hell, he's not taking any shit.
No, he's not fucking around.
Mm-mm.
So then Sam goes over to him and like whispers to him and he like points out that Dean doesn't have a gun. And Dean's like, so? He just says, "I'm not letting anyone else die tonight." And he gets really serious about it. So not fucking around. And then Sam goes off to check around the house while Dean babysits. Later, Uncle Ted is being a dick and giving Dean a hard time. Like, it seems like Sam's been gone for a while and they're just bored. So he's like asking if the salt has to be kosher or what. You're so funny, Ted. Then a door to the living room creaks open and the girl is standing in the doorway.
Oh my God. So now they all see her.
Yes. Yeah. Here she is, Dad.
Yeah. There's your proof.
Yeah, God. So she comes closer and slowly pulls out a knife. And Dean's like, "Don't worry, it can't cross the salt line." But then she steps over the salt line.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean's like, and they're like, "I thought you said the ghost couldn't cross it." And they're like, he's like, "Yep, she's not a ghost. Run." Like, get the fuck out of here. So he's only armed with a fire poker and starts to fight her as she's screaming and slashing at him with a knife. And then Sam comes in and points his flashlight at her face and she screams and like shields herself from the light and runs away.
That's basically my reaction too. Yeah. Let me run. Get out of here.
So during his search, Sam found Rebecca's diary, the daughter, and hopefully it'll have some clues. So he's probably going to be looking through that. They go outside and they're talking to each other and they were like, okay, so it's not a ghost. It's just a girl. It's just a human. But it can't be the daughter because she would be like 50 years old by now. Yeah. And so they figure that all they have to do is hold her off to keep the family safe. But also that's hard without weapons. So they're trying to figure it out. Then the family comes running around the side of the house and it's just most of them. And then Uncle Ted comes around and then they're all like, Danny, where are you? I have kind of a big problem with this.
Me too.
How the fuck did you lose your kid?
Danny. Yeah. Where the parents and Ted and Uncle Ted were literally just like, let's get the fuck out of here. Let's run. And they weren't. And they just left him. They didn't like look back and like make sure, like hold his hand.
And especially with what we know about their family later, like where they've lost a son already, you know that they would be watching their two kids like a fucking hawk.
Right.
There's no way that they would just like leave him and come around and be like, oh wait, where's Danny?
No, even I like would have that maternal instinct or paternal,
even
because it's on both of them.
So not maternal.
But seriously, like if something happened, I would be like, Lola, let me make sure, Lola and Julio, let me make sure that we're going to make it out together, you know? Because I wouldn't trust them to be able to run as fast.
No. They're going in a bag. They're getting a tote bag.
Yeah. Even if I have to grab them roughly, like I'm
They're
getting them
coming
to
with.
safety.
I know. I don't get it at all. So it doesn't make any sense. So they all start freaking out as Danny doesn't show up. And the wife, he's called her Susie. I don't know what that's short for, but
Mom and Dad.
Yeah, mom and dad. She's like fighting against her husband Brian to try and go find Danny, and he's like holding her back. And then Dean steps in and convinces them that the safest place right now is the shed. And Kate's like, I'm not going in there. And Dean's like, yes, you are. He says it's just the safest place because the windows are boarded up and it has like one point of entry. It just has one door.
That's smart.
Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So then Suze, Kate, Brian, and Sam all go to the shed, and Uncle Ted goes with Dean back into the house to check it all out and try and find Danny. So Dean checks out the closet that the girl ran into when she attacked him in the living room, and the wall in the back of the closet is loose. He pushes it open, and Uncle Ted's like, ugh, what's that smell? And then we see, like, from the other side of the wall, looking at Dean, there's like bloody fingerprints on the back of this panel. It's gross. Yeah. So they open it up and go inside, and there's like a whole hallway system inside the walls of this house.
Yeah, there's like a whole house within the house.
Yeah.
Like it's insane.
So was it a thing? Was this like a system for slaves to use?
Well, this is Nebraska, though.
So why is it like that?
I don't know if I'm making this up. I feel like I've read before that the way houses were built, it would leave that sort of space.
But I would assume it would be for the help.
I don't
like,
know.
Who else would use that?
I think it would be like for construction services. Like if the house needed, I swear I've read this before, but I could be making it up.
We should look it up. I'll look it up. But I just was a little confused. So Dean and Ted they've got their flashlights and they're going through the walls, and they find a human-sized hole in the floor at one point, and they look down in there, and Ted's like, you're not going in there. And he's like, yeah, I am. So Dean sucks it up and lowers himself into the hole. And the whole time he's like lowering himself, he's like, please nobody grab my leg. Please nobody grab my leg.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. So he drops down to the ground and looks around and sees a bunch of dead animals all over the place. And it's super gross.
And then Buster there.
Yeah, so sad. And he calls around for Danny, but he doesn't hear anything. And Uncle Ted from above is like, did you find anything? And Dean's like, yeah, her kitchen. Blech. Barfola.
Yeah, this is disgusting. So she's just been eating like rats, and so there are rats.
Basically, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We know that.
Mm-hmm. So Dean's looking around and he passes over a wall and sees a drawing in blood of like male and female stick figures holding hands. All right.
So she can write really well, but
and draw.
But draw not very well.
Right. Stick figures. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And above the hole, like on the landing, Ted's looking around and kind of like checking things out and getting himself all creeped out. And then he turns around and turns a corner, and the girl is standing there holding the knife, and she screams and stabs him in the neck.
Oh man, she's fucking lethal.
Yeah.
She's quick. She is really quick. And this was a very graphic death for very violent death for Ted, at
Mm-hmm.
least. I was surprised by that.
Yeah. So then Dean hears something and he looks up at the hole and Ted falls into it head first. So his head's like poking down into the room where Dean is and it's like dripping blood.
Ugh.
Yeah. So then Dean like crouches really quickly and covers the light from his flashlight because he's super smart.
Yeah.
And then he looks up at Ted and just looks really, really upset about the fact that he's been killed.
Yeah. But it's smart that he's like staying silent. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because this girl can really like fuck his shit up.
Yeah, apparently. And then we kind of hear her like scramble away.
Oh my God. I know. I heard that. It was so disgusting. It freaked me out. I was like, no, I don't like the sound of that at
It's
all.
gross.
Ugh.
So back in the shed, Brian's trying to get Sam to let him out so he can help Dean and Ted. But Dean suddenly knocks on the door and comes inside. And then Suze asks if he got Danny, and he says no. And then she asks where Ted is, and he looks up at them briefly and just says, he's outside. And she's like, well, why doesn't he come inside? And Dean says, because I had to carry him out. And his voice kind of cracks a little bit, like he's really upset about this.
Yeah, I mean, this poor family, like
Mm-hmm. And he
they
was
could
determined
potentially
to keep
lose.
them all alive, and it didn't happen.
No, it didn't. Ugh.
So then Suze flips out and she's like, what do you mean? And Brian's like, are you saying he's dead? And she's like, no, that's not what he's saying. She's just like flipping out. And then Dean tells them what happened, that he wasn't able to save him. And Brian's like comforting Suze, and he looks at Brian and says, I'm very sorry. Which is really unusual, right? He hasn't really shown that much remorse in the past, I feel like on this level at least.
Yeah,
He was really torn up about it.
he was, but I think he was. Well, we find out later. He's just set on saving as many people as he can to kind of repent
Yeah.
for what he's done. But I think that's why it's coming out like that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
He's kind of been like that though in the past few episodes. Like just
Well, since he's been back from hell, I think.
Yeah.
He's more understanding, which is interesting. Like, sucks that it took 40 years in hell for you to like be sympathetic.
Right. I know, to other people.
Right. So then he leaves to go back to the house, and Brian is trying to tell Susan that everything's going to be okay, but she's like convinced that Danny's dead. Brian reminds her that the girl said that she liked Danny and that he could stay, so he's probably still alive. And Suze doesn't understand why all these bad things keep happening to them. She's like, we're good people. We're a good family. And Brian's like, what happened to Andy just happened. But I'm going to get Danny back and we'll be fine. And then we cut to Sam and he's reading Rebecca's diary and he just looks up at them and is like feeling sorry for them. Yeah, it's pretty sad. So then Brian is outside. Like, we cut to him standing in front of the house, like looking up at it, and Dean joins him. And he asks if Andy is his son. And Brian says he was the oldest, and he died in a car accident last year. It nearly tore him and Suze apart, and it still could. He said the marriage counselor told him, fresh air, fresh start. And he's like, after all, what could go wrong in the country?
Right.
Yeah.
I think we've seen enough like movies.
Yeah.
To see that that's not true.
Also, what a shitty marriage counselor. I'm sorry, but you're still the same people. Just because you move somewhere else doesn't mean things are going to change. Like, that's the worst advice ever.
Yeah, uproot your entire life, move to the country, mess up your finances because it sounds like there's some issues going on with there.
Right. It's just like added
also.
Stress.
Yeah, moving is an extremely stressful thing.
And you're moving to a completely different area. Like, now you're out in the country and you have to learn how to like live out there. It's just very different. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Without your support system.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be.
Yeah, so that was like my theory at the beginning of the episode, is because I thought they were just like, I didn't think that their son had died. I just thought that they were having marriage problems,
Mm-hmm.
and that like as a solution they were like moving out to the country to like make a fresh start, and like things are going to be better now. And I'm like, that never works. Don't people
Yeah,
know
that
that
doesn't
that doesn't
happen.
work? No, you're still the same people. You're bringing the same baggage with you. If you can't figure your shit out in the city, you can't figure it out in the country. I'm
Exactly.
just saying. I'm gonna go a little Dr. Phil right now. So yeah, that was interesting. But I still feel for this guy. Like, he's just doing what the marriage counselor said. And Dean looks really seriously at him and says, I'm going to get your son back if it's the last godforsaken thing I do.
Mm.
Yeah, pretty good. So then Brian asks him why he cares so much. And Dean seems like he's about to answer, but Sam interrupts and asks to talk to Dean. So they go inside the house, and Sam tells Dean that he thinks the girl is Rebecca's daughter. He read her diary, and she only wrote about being pregnant and being ashamed of being pregnant. And then Dean says, geez, just rent Juno and get over it. Okay, Dean, because you're really an expert on
Right.
pregnancy. Whatever.
Because you understand that.
Right. So then Dean asks why she was so ashamed of it, and Sam tells him that he was like, well, maybe it's because her dad called her a dirty little whore and threatened to lock the baby up where no one would ever see it.
Mm.
So now we know kind of what the deal is. Dean's like, well, why would he say that? And Sam just looks at him and he's like, oh, gross.
Right. And that's where we get the Austria line.
Yeah, it's like a headline ripped from Austrian papers or something. And then he says, humans, man. Yeah, they're fucked
For
up.
real, though.
And so they deduce like she was captive her whole life and she escaped to kill Mr. Gibson. And Dean's like, well, I can't blame her. And Sam goes, I'm sure her life was hell, but she doesn't get a free pass for a murder spree. And then Dean gets really defensive and he's like, you know what hell's like.
Oh, calm down.
Touchy.
Yeah.
Touchy.
He's a little much right now.
I mean, I get it. It's raw.
Yeah.
It's raw, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, calm down. Rent Juno and get over it, Dean. Just kidding.
Right.
So then they're like, so where are we going to find her? And Dean remembers the dumbwaiter and figures out where she might be because that's where she would go to eat.
Ugh, gross.
Ugh. So then we cut to a scene in night vision. It's very Silence of the Lambs again.
Yeah.
And we see Danny tied up on the floor and struggling. And it's like in her little hovel with dead animals around. And then the girl slowly comes into the room and it's fucking creepy. And she pulls out a rat and holds it up by the tail and snaps its neck in front of Danny and starts eating it raw.
It's so gross.
It's fucking disgusting.
I wondered though at this point because he's just tied up, he's safe, and she did mention that she likes little kids.
Yeah. So she's
so
gonna be
is
like, here, have some.
Yeah, I wanted to see that moment,
Ugh.
where she offers it to him.
Yeah. So then Sam and Dean are busting through the wall where the dumbwaiter was covered up, and Brian tries to go in, but Dean stops him and says, I said I would get him back. Let me. So then Brian steps aside and he's like, okay, fine. Dean lowers himself into the dumbwaiter, and then Brian goes off to find some rope for pulling him back up, or something to use for rope. Then we cut to the shed. Suze and Kate are like holding each other and just waiting, and Kate's like kind of crying. And suddenly the window behind them gets smashed open and they scream. Then we cut back to Dean down in the dark, and he's looking around and finds their guns laying on the ground and the bullets are still in them. And he's just like, this bitch is a klepto.
Yeah.
And then he hears Danny screaming. Like through his restraint, he hears like a muffled scream. And he finds him and cuts him free. And then Danny says, hurry, he's coming back. And Dean goes, he? And he goes, her brother. And then suddenly we hear a man scream and Dean is attacked from behind.
Oh my God. So this fucking chick has a twin brother. So they're both just
Yes.
like crawling around.
Ah! Living in this house. And that's like the little stick figures. It's them, like holding hands. Yeah. All right. What the fuck? So back in the shed, Suze and Kate are like waiting on high alert. And they have their backs against a wall. And then the knife is stabbed through the wall behind them, like right in between them. And they scream and jump and like stand back in the middle of the shed. Then we cut back to the house, and Sam throws Danny some curtains that they tied up to use for rope to pull him out of the dumbwaiter. And Danny ties them around himself while Dean's fighting the brother. Sam and Brian pull Danny up, and he gets out and has like a really like sweet reunion with his dad. Like they have that moment where they hug, and you know he's grateful he's back. And then Brian and Danny run out of the house to go back to the shed. And Sam looks down with his flashlight on the fight that Dean's having. Dean shoves the brother off, and the brother's about to attack him again, but Dean grabs a gun laying on the ground and shoots him twice, and he just rolls over dead. Yeah.
This brother was creepy too.
Yeah, he was super creepy. Long hair, real kind of ghosty looking too.
Yeah.
Then in the shed, the girl is trying to get through some part of the shed that's got a metal plate over it. It's not actually the door. It's like another section of the shed that she's like pushing through to get inside. And she's pounding on it and breaks it down and starts to attack Suze. But then she's pulled outside by her ankle, and we just hear screaming and stabbing sounds while Kate and Suze are looking horrified. That was crazy.
That was crazy because it was like it was just it completely like turned the episode around where it's like now this horrific thing is happening to her and she's been this monster, kind of like it just seemed like a very monstrous thing to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it was really great.
But it was interesting that we didn't actually see, because the dad did this, right? We didn't actually see him do this.
Right. But it's so like kind of heroic of him, and like he gets his moment, you know, to like do that for his family. And
totally. But it's brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. So then there's a knock on the door, the actual door of the shed, and they have to move a table to open it. So they open the door and let him in, and Suze is just staring at him. And then we like pan to the front of him, and he's covered in blood and holding the knife.
Fuck. Damn.
He did it.
Yes, he did.
So Sam and Dean come outside, and the family is just like huddled on those stairs, like crying.
They're so traumatized.
I know. I was like,
poor
okay,
family.
So now we need family therapy.
Yeah. They need to go back and see that therapist.
Yeah. Oh my God. And Brian's just like kind of standing there in shock. And they walk over and they see the girl lying dead on the ground. And that was kind of cool because it's like she's behind some bushes. And so the way that they did the shot was like on the bushes that were in focus first, and then the focus changed and the bush was blurred and you could see her face clearly behind the branches, just like dead. And so the next morning, they're loading up the Impala. They've recovered all their weapons. And they thank Brian and Suze for giving them a head start before calling the police. So I guess they're like waiting for them to leave. And then the couple thanks them, and Dean asks if they're okay. And Suze is like, no, we're the opposite of okay, but we're together.
At least.
Yeah.
Without Ted.
Who needs Ted?
And Buster.
Oh.
Man.
R.I.P. Buster. So then we cut to a scene where the guys have parked the Impala under an overpass, and they pull out some burgers to eat. They're going to have a little picnic. Roadside picnic. But Dean opens it up and takes one look at it and makes a face. It's like, oh, I can't eat it, and puts it away.
He's just thinking about the rat meat.
Yeah, so something's clearly wrong with Dean if he can't eat a burger.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, I really felt for those sons of bitches back there.
I felt for those sons of bitches back there.
Um, and Sam's like, you're not like them. They were barely human. And Dean's like, you're right. I'm not like them. I was worse.
Mm.
He was like, they were animals defending territory, but I did it for the sheer pleasure. And Sam's like, what? And Dean goes, I enjoyed it, Sam. They took me off the rack and I tortured souls and I liked it. All those years and all that pain, finally getting to deal some out yourself? I didn't care who they put in front of me because that pain I felt just slipped away. No matter how many people I save, I can't change that. I can't fill this hole. Not ever. And then it cuts.
That's insane.
Fucking heavy.
So, like, he was still obviously struggling in this episode the entire time beyond just like everything we knew about it. Like,
Yeah.
he hadn't come completely clean.
And
And
that's
that's,
intense.
yeah, that he enjoyed inflicting this pain
Mm-hmm. Because
on individuals.
I did just sort of assume, last episode when he was telling Sam about it and, confessing what we were told, I did get that he felt the most guilty about his time as torturer and not torturee.
Right. He said that.
Mm-hmm. But I just assumed that was because he was then like stuck in that position and felt horrible about it the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I guess not. And then maybe just now that he's come back as human and has his like emotions back or whatever, that he's like feeling extremely guilty about it.
Right. And maybe that is like a little, there are little clues for us to see that he has changed in that way where he is like threatening people even more. Like he is just pulling out the gun and saying like, I will kill you. And
Yeah.
if you don't listen to me. And that's a lot darker,
Mm-hmm.
a darker way for him to go about things than he would do before.
Yeah.
So
I just thought of something.
what?
That part where they're going down, like they open up the panel for the closet, and Ted's like, do you smell that? Like he pointed out the bad smell, and Dean was like, every day.
Oh man. So he's like used to
Oh.
that.
Because I was
Um,
thinking before that, like, he
ju-
seems like less shocked or whatever by like some of the violence that they've seen since then. It's like he's hardened.
yeah.
Um, but man, that's gross.
I know. Oh my God, poor Dean. He's just
Yeah,
gone through so much.
I know.
And it's so interesting in this discussion that we're having throughout the season, like just watching just watching the show, just binging it, just like watching it for fun. I never really like got the gravity of it all because I'm just like zooming through episodes,
Sure.
but because we're like forced to really like feel the weight of it all
Mm-hmm.
with each discussion, it's a lot worse, thinking about it
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
talking
I could
about it.
see that because then you start analyzing it and you catch all the details and it's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
It is really bad. Poor Dean.
I know. So poor Dean. Um,
So I have kind of a wide berth for ranking.
sure. Yeah. I think I
Um,
can understand why.
yeah, like I liked this episode. I think it does the one-off monster of the week pretty well. I liked everything with the family. I really enjoy the monster of the week episodes where we get a really in-depth look at the victims that are going through all of this, and we get some human moments with them.
Yeah.
And I do feel like they did a really good job of building up the plot of this specific episode and building up these characters that we're seeing except for maybe Ted.
Right.
But
Fuck you, Ted.
yeah. But I really liked it. And so I was looking around 45 to 51.
Mm-hmm.
um right now, number 44 is Playthings. I really love Playthings, I feel at least that I like that episode better than this one. And that's the one with the little ghost.
The little
Ghost
girl in the
girl.
house. Yeah.
Yeah. But after that is Yellow Fever, Shadow, Provenance, Dead Man's Blood, All Hell Breaks Loose Part 1, Long Distance Call, and Dead in the Water.
Man, we put Dead Man's Blood pretty low.
We did. I'm not remembering why.
Me either. I would have to check that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think I agree with that. Like looking at all the episodes above that, I'm like, no, I like that better. No, I like that better. No, I like that one better. So yeah, I could see it maybe around 50. Closer to there.
Yeah, I would feel okay with that.
Yeah, so I could do that. So this would be the new number 50. And this one's going in the trunk. Bam.
Bam. Man. And hopefully we got some good security locks on that trunk so that no crazy girls and twins
can come steal it.
Yeah.
Steal our shit. Yeah.
Oh man.
I'll buy a lock for that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's about it. I'm kind of excited for the next episode because it's called Chris Angel is a Douchebag.
It's a fun episode.
It sounds really fun, and I hope it's awesome. I also like it's that time period where like Chris Angel was still a thing. So it was like, 2008 or whatever.
I remember watching his show quite a bit.
I'm sure I did not, but a lot of people did. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Like, I don't know if they're like friends with him and, something's happening there, or if they're just making fun of him or what. We'll find out. Okay, so let me tell y'all where to find us. We have our blog at www.highwayhwytohellpodcast.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Our handle on everything is at Highway to Hell Podcast. You can call and leave us a voicemail at 908-516-HELL, 908-516-4355. Or you can email us at highwaytohellpodcast@gmail.com. And we have some new stuff on the Patreon as well that we didn't mention. But one of the things that we've started doing for some new Patreon content is something that, Kristen is really excited about, but I'm also very interested in, which is actually comparing different elements between Buffy and Supernatural. So we're kind of breaking it down. Right now we're looking at creatures. So how they portray witches in both Supernatural and Buffy, or how they portray vampires in both shows. And as we go along, we'll just, explore different elements and compare them and just talk about that.
Yeah, it's funny because I think when we were initially talking about Patreon content, like this was one of the things that we had decided to do, but then we changed it to do Supernatural fandom stuff, which I really like. But it's going to be nice to kind of take a break and get into some new interesting topics.
So
I
we'll just mix it up a bit.
Yeah, I have a list of stuff that will be really interesting to discuss.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I love Buffy, but I was telling Kristen, like, I remember the earlier seasons because those are the ones I watched the most. And I don't remember the later seasons as much. So this might give me an excuse to really, like, I actually started it over yesterday. John was like, I've never seen it. So I started.
Really?
Yeah. So I started it over and watched episode 1. So maybe this will start up a rewatch for me too. That'll be fun.
Yeah. I know season 1 is really hard to get through the first time, I think now, because it's so campy. So I always suggest for people who have never seen it, watch episode 1 and 2, episode 7, and then the season finale of season 1. And then
you're good.
Yeah. And then you're good for season 1 until you go back and you love it because you've already watched all of Buffy.
And you're more committed.
Right. Exactly.
That's good advice. All right, guys. Well, I guess until next time, we will see you on the highway to hell. Bye.
Bye.